Hello and welcome back to the Fixing Football podcast with me, Martin Naylor. I'm here with Liam O'Meara tonight. It's just us, just the two of us. That one, Liam.
Yes.
Liam, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Martin. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Do you know what number episode this is?
I feel like I should know. But
80.
I don't know. I was going to go 78, so...
Maybe 78 for you. You missed a few, haven't you?
Yeah. Probably a handful, I think.
Number 80. We're closing in on the big century episode. So I'll have to do something special for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, to be fair, it's like 5-6 months away. Feels closer. It's actually quite a while away.
I think I worked it out. We should hit it like beginning of April, providing there isn't any emergency broadcast that we need to put out.
Or nuclear war.
Or that, and we might not get there.
Yeah.
So we'll pray for peace wherever that needs to be happening.
Obviously, for more important reasons than just doing a podcast. Obviously,
well,
nuclear war.
Selfishly, yeah. Speaking of important things, we have a competition running, and we really want to get this as many people involved as possible. We have a David Beckham signed shirt. All the details are below the information for this episode and on our social media. So a David Beckham signed Real Madrid shirt, perfect for anyone's Christmas present or your own personal collection. It's a good one. Liam, no Bolton Wanderers this week. In fact, do you know what has just happened as we're recording this on Monday?
Don't know.
The FA Cup third round draw.
Oh, was it? I didn't pay attention because we weren't in it. So.
Well, that's I was going to ask you why wasn't Bolton playing this weekend? So
because we were knocked out by Walsall, so we were not in the FA Cup. And to be honest, Bolton could have done with a break. Things still aren't fantastic at Bolton. So
I'm going to fill you in then on a few select fixtures that have been drawn. Second out of the hat, Arsenal versus Manchester United.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm sick of getting these. Like, the Carabao Cup's going better for us this year, but the FA Cup has been battering us early on. I think we've had our last 3 third-round draws have been Liverpool, Man City and Man United.
Bloody hell. Is that at Arsenal then?
It's at the Emirates, that one.
At the Emirates.
Let's see who else. Can I tell you another one that I loved?
Go ahead. Why not?
Manchester City at home to Salford City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is any other standout ones?
Chelsea v Morecambe.
I said standout ones.
No, that's a fun day out for them.
What, Chelsea?
Well, I might get a few people who go Tamworth at home to Tottenham.
That's a classic draw, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like that one. Who else did I like? Crystal Palace have got Stockport, and that's meh. Who else was there? I think there was Aston Villa got West Ham.
Oh yeah, Claret and Blue Derby.
Liverpool got Accrington Stanley at Anfield.
Good job for Accrington. Nice payday for them.
Some history there. And Bromley are away at Newcastle United. They had a fun weekend and yeah, they've been rewarded for it.
Yeah, I just got the draw up in for there. I can see Millwall have got both Dagenham and Redbridge, so that's they have to play 2 teams in that game.
Seems unfair.
Yeah, it does seem unfair. But yeah, Arsenal United, that's exciting. FFP derby.
Yeah.
And we've literally got one in. Well, when does it? What day is that game? Is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday.
Tomorrow when this goes out then. So tomorrow.
Providing our host of listeners are listening as soon as this drops, it'll be out tomorrow. Most will be catching up afterwards where, there'll be a picture of me celebrating a historic, victorious triumph.
Is it still historic beating United?
No, but it's my favourite fixture of the season. I love this. For personal reasons and for just nostalgic reasons as well. This is my favourite match of the year for me. Regardless of the result.
Where's the game on Wednesday? Is it at Emirates?
At the Emirates, yeah.
Okay. We might as well talk about Arsenal then. How do you think?
Talk about Arsenal.
What are your thoughts heading into that game? Are you happy with how things are going at the moment?
We are definitely hitting a nice stride, which has been good. We've had a rocky start. It's echoing last season a little bit, where last season we had a good start, then stuttered, and then we had that famous sort of trip to Dubai. We got knocked out of the FA Cup, and then we managed to get ourselves off to Dubai for 10 days, and that sort of saved our season, where we went on this crazy run when we came back from there. So it seems like the last international break has done something similar. We played 3 games since the last international break. We scored 13 goals. We absolutely battered West Ham for... I mean, sometimes on like Sky when it comes up with the stats, little features in the corner, and it's like last 5 minutes possession was 90%, and it sort of inflates the story. It only tells a picture of obviously the last 5 minutes, but a stat came up for the last 30 minutes and Arsenal were on 91% possession. It was a ridiculous battering until West Ham got their goal back. Fun, interesting match. Good result. Glad people are getting into their stride. The team's looking fit. We had Marino and Partey pull out last minute, which was obviously unfortunate, but I'm really liking Jorginho at the moment. He does a really good job for us. So, I'm confident with Arsenal going into the Man United match, which is it's the toughest in a bunch of fixtures that we should be picking up maximum points in all the way through, sort of leading up to Christmas and that. Leading basically back up to the FA Cup third round against them now. Is
it more simple now? Is it just because Ødegaard's back? Is that the reason the upset in form, or is it more than that?
It's more than that, but it's a big part of it. Ødegaard is... I said this a little bit about Jesus last season when he was out injured, because at that time Jesus was so important to the way we were set up and the way we played. We hadn't even tried Havertz in the up front, which we've sort of become accustomed to now with us. Ødegaard is so vital to our team, especially when we've got an apparent lack of creative attacking midfielders. We've got attacking wingers, and then we've got Trossard and Havertz, who all sort of, if you probably looked at the stats on like a Football Manager or a FIFA, you'd think they were great in that position, but they just don't work in the same as, people who we've let go, like Emil Smith-Rowe or Fabio Vieira, who could be filling that void. So he's so important to us, and he's not just important to us, he's fucking mint. Like, he's class. He's arguably the best player in the world as a number 10. I said arguably.
Arguably being a very, a lot of heavy italic on that word I would put. But yeah, he's a very good player.
He's in the conversation. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
That would be me in the conversation in the background.
Yes. Yeah, fair enough. More of like an old man just talking to himself in the corner of a room type conversation. But he's very good. You just get
sort of how this podcast feels, to be honest.
You get a little bit carried away at times, but there we go. That's fair enough.
So, yeah, there's a lot of other factors. I think people are just getting fit. It also coincided with, Timber and Calafiori coming back into the team at the same time, so we could have a settled back four, which we've chopped and changed with up until now.
Until Calafiori's injury this week.
No.
Went off injured, didn't he? Did not go off injured.
No, not injured. Not injured. No.
Oh, is it one of those Arsenal injuries? Is it?
He's coming back from injury, so they're taking him off after like 60 minutes for the last couple of games. What do you mean, one of those Arsenal injuries?
No, nothing. Didn't mean anything, but.
Well, the viewers can't see you. The listeners can't see you rolling your eyes and shrugging. So you need to be a bit more audio descriptive.
I visibly rolled my eyes.
Liam rolls eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing very well. So I suppose we'll see how you get on against United, who had a very good game against Everton, didn't they?
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did watch quite a lot of it actually.
I thought they were poor,
At United.
Yeah, I thought the scoreline really flattered them. It just helped that was Everton who they were playing. I thought Everton were pretty decent at times, and 4-0 is... If that game had been 1-0 to United, it probably tells a different story. That United maybe just should have edged it. And then
I know what you're saying. They weren't fantastic, but I would say there were a lot of gilt-edged chances. Like, Everton gave up a lot of gilt-edged chances. So I don't... Whilst I agree it wasn't like a 4-0 battering,
yeah,
they weren't they weren't 4 goals that they shouldn't have scored either. So the chances were there for him to win 4-0. Just Everton are a nothing team at the moment. They're just basically in holding pattern for this takeover in new stadium. Mainly the takeover though, like because it just feels like Dyche is a dead man walking there.
Yeah, it's like a divorce waiting to happen, isn't it? I was speaking to an Everton fan today actually, and yeah, he said the same. Those were his words. It's like we're just waiting for the divorce to go through. Whereas my opinion is Dyche is serving his purpose, which is to keep them in the Premier League until they get to that new stadium.
Oh, 100%. He should have. They're very ungrateful, I think, Everton fans that I speak to about Dyche. They don't. One thing I've always found about Everton fans, almost to their credit, they'll never accept their status in the world. They genuinely think that they should be higher in the league than they are now. And their team is horrendous. Like, man for man, it is dog shit. It's no better than Ipswich's. Like, for me, man for man. It's an awful, awful 11. And, like, they're looking at Dwight McNeil as their essentially star player. Like,
yeah,
that's not outrageous for me to say. He is their star player.
I was just going through sort of man for man versus Ipswich then, and I think Pickford aside, you'd struggling to tell a difference if you just swap shirts around. That's it.
100%.
It's an Ipswich side.
And there's no scope for Dyche to do much more. Like, they're getting points deducted for the way they've handled the finances. So, the fact he's kept them in the Premier League to this transition of new ownership and new stadium at the end of the year is a miracle. It's a miracle because they could have been in financial ruin.
Yeah,
but they seem to think that that's not the case, and I can never get my head around it. And also, I think whenever with Everton, the pressure's always cranked up at Everton when Liverpool are doing exceptionally well. Like it makes Everton fans even more touchy in my experience when Liverpool are flying. So,
do you think
that's playing a part in it? I think
I'm a little bit the guy who I was speaking to. He was a fellow father at our daughter's swimming class. He was
right.
So, and he was saying like he's not. He said, "I hope you guys win the league." We just got onto football, and I hope you guys win the league. Don't want to see Liverpool win it. And then he said, "But to be honest, I'm not. Everton are so bad at the moment that I don't even care about Liverpool."
No, he does. I've never known a team care more about another team than Everton fans care about Liverpool.
No, that's untrue.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's an obsession.
I don't think we can understand that, not being in a city with 2 clubs.
Oh, like don't get me wrong, it must be horrendous at times being an Everton fan. Like,
yeah,
seeing them do everything while you essentially tread water, which is what they do. And I support a shit team, so this is me just digging out on Everton fans for that. I get it, right? But it must be horrendous at times, like watching them win trebles or whatever, and all these fabled star players that they sign, and you're waiting on, like, I don't know, Leon Osman, who was a brilliant player for him, but it's not Steven Gerrard, is it? So you have to, you live in this world of unfair, because you're having football conversation, you go into these derby games with your mates in the pub, and they're always happy and you're always the loser. It must make you so bitter, and I get that. Like, I do get it.
Let's not stick the knife in anymore. Just for Steve's sake, more than anyone.
I was going to say hi, Steve, by the way.
But would you know anything about the takeover, where it's at?
Flecking Group, is it?
That was the last I'd heard, but
I've not heard it. Well, I mean, I've not looked, to be honest. I just know it's still pending, and I believe.
Right.
Yeah, I believe they're involved in decisions being made at the club now. Last I heard any news on it, I believe they're sort of ingratiating themselves into the day-to-day, which is usually a sign of it.
Yeah.
Saying like 777 did the same, and even John Textor was talking about owning them when he hadn't even sold anything yet. And
777 were dropping loans in the Everton accounts for a while, weren't they?
That's going to be part of the takeover, I imagine, sorting those loans.
Yeah,
they're not the only one either, but yeah, I think it's still proceeding as far as I'm aware. So
that
yeah.
my personal feelings is that I don't. While it does look, it's I don't know. They are going to be well in the fight at the bottom of the table come, the business end of the season, and I want to have a few trips to that new stadium because it looks amazing. It looks brilliant.
It looks very Bundesliga.
It does actually. That's a good shout. That's not a bad
Bundesliga
thing. They have great stadium.
No, it does. Screams 2006 World Cup, like like sort of not. It's not having like Italy versus France there, but it might have like Hungary versus Switzerland there, like that type of game.
Honestly, you and Everton, this is a beef.
It's not a beef, but I mean, I don't like Everton, but I think the stadium's very nice. I think it's in a great location as well. I'm just saying it looks a bit like a Bundesliga stadium, not in a negative way. I like the Bundesliga.
It's just when you say it, it sounds negative.
Oh yeah, probably do. It's a Bundesliga stadium.
Yeah, let's
flat pack stadium.
Right. Is there any other fixtures around the Premier League that you can think of that were of interest this week?
There's quite a few interesting ones. I'd say ones worthy of note were.
Liam, that was rhetorical.
Oh right.
Man City v Liverpool.
Oh yeah, of course.
We've got to crack on with this craziness that is going on at Man City because it's getting weird now. It's past the blip. It's past.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the kind of game they'd always lose. I'd say, not always. No, let me phrase that. They could always lose this one. They've got a terrible record there.
Yes, they could always lose. Even in a great run, Man City could go to Anfield like any team could and lose.
And they weren't horrendous either, City, in this game, I think. I feel like they came back with a bit of fight in the second half, but it felt like Liverpool were always more dangerous when City were coming on them. It's like one or two passes and Liverpool are in. So it was playing into Liverpool's hands a little bit, but yeah, they're in trouble, City. It is a crisis. I would go that far with it, particularly we've talked about it a lot, but with everything going on off the pitch at the moment, like the club just feels in a very precarious position. I'm still surprised Pep signed that contract.
It's weird timing on that one for me. The longer this stuff goes on, and they've got Forest at home this week, so things could start to look up very quickly. Forest are returning back to Forest ways, even though they picked up a win this weekend, but City could easily. And like they can with anyone, they've got the players to just destroy anyone at home. But I have to disagree that I thought they were bad. It might be the worst I've seen them. And Liverpool can do that to you. But while Liverpool were good, I think City were equally bad. In the same sense, they're just making crazy mistakes at the back that they don't do. They just don't. The midfield looks heavy and flat. It looks soft. Like I'm not like a midfield three of Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, and Rico Lewis looks. I mean, it's not physically the most intimidating, but it feels tired.
Do you think it was strange to play Matthias Nunes on the wing rather than have him in the middle? Because he does have energy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I thought that was a very strange selection because I felt like, for me, him instead of maybe Gundogan would have made sense, and potentially having Jack Grealish out there, for me, would give a little bit more bite in that midfield, because it is bite that they're missing in there.
Do you think there's something more going on behind the scenes? This has been alluded to a little bit today in the press, but
go on. I've not seen this. I've got my own theories of what's going on, but
I can't understand. I can understand it for one or two games coming back from injury, but De Bruyne has been on the bench now for about 5 games in a row, and coming on late, coming on with not enough time to affect the game. I know he ended up with that chance sort of in about the 83rd minute, when Van Dijk.
Yeah, game was gone then.
But he's not. This is Kevin De Bruyne. So talk about the greatest midfielder to ever play in the Premier League is being stuffed on the bench. That is fact, by the way.
Well, it's not.
I
fact,
said it.
It's not fact, but I'm not segueing into that discussion. But go on.
It's the truth. regardless of anyone's opinion, is not a million miles off, even if you think he's not.
Oh no, he's
So
I'll have he's in that conversation. But go on.
And he's been stuffed on the bench and brought on with 10, 15 minutes to go without being able to do what he can. He's, from what I've seen of him at any point this season, his legs don't look gone. I'm not saying I know more than Pep, but I just think there's more to that one.
Maybe. I do think the pressure's getting to them behind the scenes. I think it'd be a very unhappy dressing room at the moment, and there'd be a lot of people who aren't used to losing, don't know how to handle it, and I think they know they're being bullied. I think that's what would get under my skin the most. It's not like they're being played off the park; they're being bullied in games. Like, I think the Tottenham one was really interesting because the Tottenham one, they played into Tottenham's hands so much. Like, Tottenham turned City's strength into a weakness, essentially. That idea of composure and looking for those bounce passes off where Rodri was supposed to be. Because that wasn't Rodri. Essentially, City's strength of maintaining possession and getting from essentially midfield and being able to turn on those half turns in midfield. Tottenham were all over them and they were ready for it. And not only that, Tottenham had 3 or 4 men ready to receive the ball once they'd won it. So I think that game will have really got in their heads.
Well, I thought it was interesting that Gvardiol was the one who paid the price for a few sloppy passes when this seemed to keep happening. How you mentioned the Tottenham game, Tottenham really took advantage of that sloppiness where they're missing Rodri and how cool and clever he is in that area. Liverpool didn't necessarily do that, even though they pressed them high. City beat the press more often than not, but they were just so poor with it. They would get it into midfield and then fuck it off into the corner or try something over the top for Haaland. Now that ball's on occasionally. It's not always on. It's not all, you don't put Haaland up against Van Dijk every time. You're dealing with one of the best centre backs we've ever seen. And
he also doesn't make the run as much as he used to, I don't think. Haaland.
No. Well, teams are used to defending deep like fuck against City as well. So you're going to see that less. He's great in a short space. Where he's been amazing is on the turn, scoring without taking a touch, just letting it roll through his body.
Yeah.
And
I did see him. Now that we talk about it, I did make a mental note when I was watching the Liverpool City game. I did notice Haaland starting to drop deep in the second half to receive the ball, and I wondered whether that was out of frustration. Like, feeling like getting absolutely wound up by the lack of touches.
100%. And you mentioned Matheus Nunes. Well, you might agree that he does have legs. He can't keep all the ball to save his life. He's weak and flimsy. And I rated him quite highly at Wolves, and you just seen the step up in level getting to Man City. He looks miles off it. And where someone like Jack Grealish can come in there and keep hold of the ball, regardless of people might be critical of the output that you get from Grealish sometimes, he keeps hold of the ball and he keeps City moving, and Nunes doesn't. I would be very concerned at City. 2 or 3 games into this run,
I'm not concerned. No. It's fucking piss funny. But
it's hilarious. No, but if I was a City fan,
I think if I was a City fan, I'd have bigger worries.
I think they're all coming on top of the. It's all snowballing into one.
Crumbling inside on itself.
Yeah. I agree. Hilarious, though.
Yeah. Really funny.
But, so what else? What else has been on your mind? What have you been up to? Seeing as though there's no Bolton Wanderers to watch.
Well, it was a bit of a relief. I think Bolton needed a break. Our form is generally okay at the moment, but we keep just having punches in the stomach type results. So we did have a game in our injury time. So we had the Tuesday game away at Cambridge.
Yeah.
Where we were 1-0 up. They went down to 10 men. Sorry, they went down to 10 men. We were 1-0 up. And we conceded in the 90th minute, 1-0. And it's just like, we just beat Blackpool at home and then we get this result. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and that's kind of where we are at the moment, where if you looked at our form of the last 10 games, it's pretty good, but it doesn't quite tell the full story, I don't think. And we've got a game tomorrow. Well, tonight, sorry, when it goes out, Mansfield at home. So we'll see about that. We'll see how it goes.
If you had to make a prediction now, do Bolton make the playoffs?
Yeah, probably. I
Right.
think our overall form probably gets us there. I have no expectations of promotion though.
Okay.
But you never know when you're in the playoffs. You never know. That's the nature of them. We were the best team in the playoffs last year. We didn't go up. So I think we'd get in the playoffs. Just our overarching form is probably just about good enough to be top 6. But I'm not sitting here with any kind of confidence in playing in Championship football next year. But you never know.
So, well, speaking of fan unrest at Bolton Wanderers, Liam, there was a bit more fan unrest this weekend. We'll talk about that in the second half. Let's just have a 2 minutes break. And we're back. Liam.
Martin.
This weekend, there was a lot of protests going on. Fans from both sides of the Man City fans and Liverpool fans both into the same protest. And it was to do with ticket prices. What was the name of the group who sort of done it?
It's the FSA, isn't it? Football Supporters Association.
The exploiting fan loyalty, something like that. Exploiting the loyalty of fans.
Yeah.
So come off the back of Manchester United announcing that they were going to be raising ticket prices to an average of £66 per game. Sounds like a lot to me.
Yeah.
What would you say the average ticket price is at Bolton Wanderers these days? This is a League One side. Now, bear in mind, one of the bigger League One sides, but what we're talking here for someone to walk up and watch the game.
So without, for example, not a season ticket holder, let's say you wanted to go to tomorrow night watch Bolton vs Mansfield, right? Well, I don't know if they put a deal on for the Mansfield game, but let's say they hadn't and it was just a normal ticket, looking around 25 quid, up to 30 quid, something like that, in that ballpark.
Even the beer mats at Anfield were in, so I don't know who arranged this, but there was some beer mats like that that said, would you pay £11.30 or something for a pint? There's going to be a lot of figures thrown around in this one, so take them with a pinch of salt. But they're roughly around where we're talking. It's on the beer mats. It said, would you pay £11.30 for a pint? In 1990, beer was £1.90 a pint, and a ticket at Anfield was £4. So based on inflation, based on inflation, a beer should now be £11.90, which they're obviously not. I mean, they're still quite expensive at a football stadium, but they're probably around half that. But ticket prices are, somewhat imitating the housing market rather than actual inflation of life.
And, because there's only a limited supply of tickets. So I get the analogy, but it's not exactly how it works.
What are your thoughts on this? What? Tell me everything you know about this sort of movement, and what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so in terms of why it's happening, there's a big concerted effort to try and concerned about a lot of clubs not only increasing the price of the ticket, but then also doing away with concession type pricing. I think that's what's really pushed this movement forward. So things like senior tickets becoming harder to come by. I think there was an issue over the summer with Tottenham with that, weren't there? And I think West Ham maybe something similar.
Yeah, under 18s or under 21s as well.
Yeah, or seniors, or even senior ones as well. I think at Tottenham, I think the qualifying age is moving up every year to stop people joining the qualifying age. I think it used to be 60, but I think now it's going up to 61 next year, 62 the year after. So basically, you can be under the threshold forever, almost. I think this is what's brought it to the fore a little bit more. And I think it follows on from what we were talking about last week, where a lot of clubs, particularly big six clubs, which, make the most noise, the fans, and it's understandable, they've got the biggest fan groups, right? They're experiencing a situation where their ticket prices are becoming so expensive for these one-off games. Can't get near a season ticket even if they wanted one. And it makes following their team almost impossible for like a normal sort of working family that maybe wants to take 2 adults, 2 children to the game, for example. If you're going watching Man United, no, you're looking at what, $250 on tickets before you even kick off, maybe even more, up to $350. Like, it's outrageous.
Can I tell you a fun stat that I found out doing a bit of research? It was a report by the Sports Intelligence Group, and at Tottenham Hotspur so it was at Spurs. This report was specific to them, but sort of, it can be applied probably to a lot of the big clubs. In 1991, the revenue per fan per game was just slightly over £10, and in 2023, that was £80.
Oof.
I hope it's a mad stat, that, isn't it?
Well, Tottenham's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we touched on this a little bit last week. That idea of Tottenham, a big vision of Tottenham is that you spend all the money associated with Tottenham at Tottenham.
Yeah,
so
it's an entertainment brand now in an entertainment arena.
Yeah, so they brought a lot of their pre-game drinking in-house, if you will, as well, haven't they? Rather than frequenting local pubs and bars, they want you to drink at Tottenham.
I want to bring the fucking parking in-house. That's what
Well, they park it, yeah, exactly. That's what they need to focus on, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, that follows the trend of a lot of clubs. And, for example, I saw a stat regarding Chelsea. Like, a lot of before we get into the specifics, the trend tends to be at the moment that a lot of the more expensive tickets are getting more expensive at a faster rate than maybe the cheaper tickets. So clubs are targeting, theoretically, the more wealthier fan that's going after the more premium ticket, whether that be corporate hospitality or best seats in those, and they're rising at a much faster rate at the moment. And I think Man United, particularly at the moment, this is a big thing with them, isn't it? A lot of their corporate and hospitality tickets have flown up in price since Ineos took over.
Arsenal, very similar, to be fair. I don't want to pile on one club in particular because I think there's a lot of people, doing the very similar thing. I was surprised to learn that our cheapest ticket is £21 at the Emirates, but that would be, the highest behind the goal seat that you can get on the lowest category game, on a Category C game, which would be...
What would be a Category C? Like, are we talking Bournemouth?
Yeah. Say, who would be? Probably Everton. Bournemouth. I'm just trying to think who else is in the league. Southampton. Yeah, someone like that. Someone were...
So that'd be a Premier League game, a £21 junior ticket, would it?
Potentially. Yeah. Okay. Or, maybe, the Bolton Wanderers game in the FA, in the Carabao Cup, stuff like that may have been...
I think it was £10 a ticket.
C.
I think that game was £10 a ticket.
Historically, the early rounds of Europa League or Champions League would have been Category C if they were, say we had Inter Milan one week and then the next week was Sparta Prague. Maybe that one is a Category C game, stuff like that. But then there's Category A games, which, the tickets are like rocking horse shit. You just can't get hold of them for save your life.
No, yeah, it is interesting. I think the cheapest season ticket at Arsenal was just over £1,000, wasn't it? So they're quite expensive. Yep. And I think they go up to just over £2,000 in terms of the range of season ticket prices.
You can actually apply for a ridiculous club level experience season ticket now at Arsenal, where it's like you basically become an investor in the club. You're putting that much in. Like, it's like £100,000 ticket that they made available. And there'll be a select few who take it up. The KSIs of the world might be involved. And you actually get, I think you come away with a piece of the club you're chucking that much in.
Well,
like at least that's
a chair or something.
You physically take it home with you. But yeah, them ticket prices.
I'd want a fucking floodlight for £100,000.
I'd want a place on the bench.
So obviously they're going up at the top end. I think a big concern of the fans is what next, because obviously you can only go to that well so many times, can't you, of increasing the corporate and increasing those experiences like you've mentioned there at Arsenal. And I think a big concern is that increasingly what will happen is what we talked about last week, where season tickets no longer become available and the clubs essentially use the remainder tickets to maximise their game returns in each individual game, and you end up in situations. Yeah, well, just charging a high rate for the individual match day fans.
So, I mean, a simple way of fixing it is fans collectively stop going, but sort of what we alluded to is the demand is so high that we saw that where there was planned boycotts of games that turned into, well, let's not just go in for the first 10 minutes, or let's leave before the end, or let's leave.
Well, that's why they do that, because essentially the problem is, particularly, I know I keep going back to United, but they're the best example, I think. Like, they're on our doorstep and we kind of know how it works, right? But for every person who doesn't want to go to United again, there'll be another person ready to take up. And I think part of the United season ticket and part of the United problems, I believe, is that you're expected not you to attend. So it's not just a case of buying your season ticket, for example, and then you keep it. You're expected to attend those games as well. And your barcode is scanned. Like they make sure that you attend. And if you don't, then you lose your season ticket privilege for the next year, if that's correct.
But yeah, that's true. I think it's like based off a percentage of games. If you don't attend, over 80%, or at least sell it on in the right way through the club, like Luke was explaining with his brother, then yeah, potentially you're in danger of losing out on your ticket. The fans, us, we are the it sounds cliche, but the lifeblood of the Premier League, and we're part of what makes it an unbelievable product. So, do you think this independent regulator that's been spoken about and that appears to be coming in has to be vocal on this?
I think there's two parts to that. So firstly, I'll pick up your number about how the fans are to the Premier League clubs. So I think they make up about 6% of the revenue over a year in terms of, match day tickets and stuff like that. So commercially, it's not as much as maybe it would be for Bolton, for example. However, you're quite right in your second part of that, where they do massively add to the value of the Premier League in terms of...
Correct, yeah.
Particularly away fans. So, which is why you've got those, like, price caps at £30 and stuff like that, just to ensure that away attendances are high. The Premier League knows what they're doing with that. It's not all about helping the fans out. They know how important away attendances are, particularly to ensure, let's say, for example, Everton are away at Arsenal. Like, they still want to make sure that there's 4,000 or 5,000 Everton fans there to make sure that there's atmosphere, right? Because, otherwise, if you're paying £60 for that, you're thinking, fuck that. Like, we're going to get absolutely panned there. I'm not paying 60 quid to watch Gabriel Jesus score against us. Like, so
subsidised travel as well. But yes, it's 6,000 the away allowance at the Emirates, which is, the away ends. You've seen them bouncing at times in that corner.
Oh yeah, exactly. But it's an important part of it. So that's the first part of your question. The second part, which I'm trying to sort of scramble to remember now because I realise that the independent regulator.
Yes.
Very hard, I think, for the independent regulator, because whilst there's definitely, in terms of from fans' perspective, an appetite for some control over ticket prices and that type of stuff, these are essentially independent businesses making their own decisions on their price of their products. So it is very hard for, I think, the independent regulator to essentially have any kind of control here, to be completely honest. But could the Premier League be convinced that at 6% of their revenue, that surely some protection with regards to costing, they need to be brought into the conversation, I think. Otherwise,
I think
it'd be difficult.
I think that's a good point. For me to go to an Arsenal game, like, I'm not a native Londoner, as people might be able to tell. So for me to go to an Arsenal game, it's 300, 400, 500 quid. Ticket price is just a small portion of that. And Arsenal have, we were talking about Bolton Wanderers fans a couple months ago, but Arsenal probably have 20, 30 million fans worldwide. And if all them fans, you can't just rely on you getting another 60,000 in, and then another 60,000 when you outprice them, and then another 60,000, because then you're going to have to start taking into account that it's costing people £500 per game. There was another stat in the Sports Intelligence one that them prices that I spoke to earlier about the £10 and £80. That £10 was 2% of the UK weekly average wage, whereas now it's 11%. That 80% is 11% of the UK average weekly wage.
Okay.
So that stuff like that has to be taken into consideration, where the rest of the world doesn't move at the same pace as football does, and you can't just ignore it in the way that the housing market has been.
No, but I think the only way it stops, I mean, to be fair, Bolton, I'd say League 2 and League 1, particularly for like season tickets, things have been quite stagnant for a while. So there have been some raises, but they've not been anywhere near the same rate at the top end Premier League. And I think that's fueled primarily by demand, as we touched on earlier. And I think the biggest issue you've got is, let's say Arsenal fans mobilised, all the current match going Arsenal fans mobilised and said,
yeah,
they slammed their table on AFTV and they're like, enough is enough. We're all not going. And then all their tickets then get put for sale. I bet they sell out.
Yeah. What I'm saying is you can't rely on another 60,000 and then another 60,000, because you just price them ones out again and then you'll price the next lot out. There's got to be there's got to be some, can't say cap, like, because you make a good point about the businesses doing what's right for them and being able to, squeeze out every penny of what they can. But squeezing out every penny of what they can is detrimental to their own product, which the fans are a part of.
It is and it isn't. But what the key point is here is it's such an important part of English/British culture. Going to the match, enjoying that at your weekend. And it was essentially, communities are built on this, that what you don't want is that doesn't become available to some people purely based on their financial sort of situation. And that is unfortunate, because then you're sort of taking football and you're putting it in the same category as pretty much everything else in the entertainment business, like concerts and fucking all that kind of stuff. You're basically putting football in that, and for me, football doesn't represent that. But I suppose from a legal perspective, it probably does. But I think this is why things like the protests at the weekend, even though a lot of people sort of turn their nose up at it and think it was pointless, it isn't. Like, it isn't pointless to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it was talked about enough, to be honest. No,
and exactly. Well, Sky didn't really want to pay too much mind to it, did they? That's the last thing they want to see.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there are two big games, they're two games that involve people from both Liverpool and Manchester, two cities that, Christ almighty, like, you know what I mean? It's not easy for them to agree on much. Exactly. So, like, yeah, so I'm losing my trail of thought, but yeah, the issue is that they need to see it differently. It needs to be taken into differently, and bands are the ones that can drive the change.
How do we do it? More protests, more
organisation. Obviously, the stronger the protest, the bigger the effect. I just don't think it happens. I don't think people boycott matches. That just doesn't happen. Like, people want to go, and I get that. And they don't want to be doing this kind of shit. They just want to go and enjoy the football. But just keep lobbying, keep pressuring the clubs. Clubs don't look great for it. Like, and they know that. Like, Tottenham spending all summer arguing over what counts as a senior citizen or not. Like, it don't look great, and it's an embarrassing part for Tottenham to be in when they're arguing that point. So keep pushing. A lot of Villa fans have quite rightfully pointed out their Champions League ticket prices. Horrendous.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
started at like 93 quid or something.
Exactly. But, all of a sudden Villa are having to defend their position on it, and they started moving on stuff like car park fees and stuff like that, whatever. So it does work. You're just going to keep doing it.
Tottenham don't have to worry about that, do they?
No, they don't have to worry about car parking fees. No. Have we had anything back from where we parked?
Not yet.
Okay. Keep me in the loop on that.
We may do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like there's not been enough outrage at it from other media sources, and I feel like fans need to push more on it. I mean, what does the figure come at Bolton Wanderers for you when it becomes too expensive? If Bolton stayed in League One for the next 5 years, but increased their ticket prices, kept increasing ticket prices, we're doing it for the greater good, we're doing it to build our funds up, blah blah blah, all the spiel that you get.
So what's my season ticket at the moment? It's like 350 quid a year. So I've got quite, I know. So there's quite a range left yet, to be fair.
For you, right, that says, to you that you're very fortunate to be in that position where you can say, even if this goes to 550 quid, I'm willing to pay it because I really want to go watching Bolton Wanderers. But so 350 might be the limit for a lot of people. Yeah, this isn't London we're talking about here. We're in
I'm sure it is.
Town.
And I know that there is always this discussion when prices go up. But one thing I would say to Bolton's credit, I think, is the cost of junior tickets and stuff like that is very low. So I think under 12, I think is like 60 quid.
Yeah.
So it is very well weighted in that regard, I think. So
I have, obviously being up here, we get a lot of exposure to Bolton Wanderers more so than other clubs. And yeah, where the concessions are concerned, Bolton do really well. Really fair pricing for OAPs and people over 60 and to get young people going to the match. And I think Bolton have benefited it from, filling out the stadium, because that is a trouble as well, being in League One. You've got a 28,000 seat stadium to fill.
Yeah, and we're consistent. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've slumped a little bit as of late, actual attendances. Bolton are still in that form where they count ticket sales. They don't do actual attendance, they count it on tickets sold. So there's a bit of disparity, I think, between actual attendance and what we're saying the attendance is. And I suspect that tonight, in their game tonight, will be, tonight, yeah.
Just as a side note, Liam's really struggling with this being recorded 24 hours before it goes out.
Yeah, I do struggle with this. And so, when in the game tonight, it will be, I think there'll be not as many there. I think a few people are a bit frustrated with Bolton at the moment, but that's a side issue. The tickets are pretty reasonably priced, I would say.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, where does that get?
For me personally, I mean, if it got to about 550, I'd start to be a bit annoyed. But I probably would still go to, because this idea of exploiting loyalty. I would put myself in that bracket. Like it'd have to be quite ridiculous before I stop going. But then I would stop going. I think that's where I've had this conversation with both you and Luke before about a lot of these ticket prices stuff. I wouldn't put up with that. Like when Luke talks about when he had his United season ticket and this idea of having to buy cup games or he'd lose his ticket, I'd tell him fuck off. I wouldn't put up with that. Like that kind of stuff I just wouldn't have put up with. But I will never have to worry about that, I don't think.
Yeah, it'll be a while.
Yeah.
Right. So now we need to mobilise the people.
We do struggle to get 4 people on the podcast. I'm 4 people protesting about ticket prices mine.
That's a separate subject, and there's gonna have to start being consequences for that, I think.
What do you think consequences should be?
Let's get onto that in a minute.
Okay.
Our fix is and you tell me if you agree or not, but we want fans to continue to mobilise and speak out and join protests, obviously peacefully, but be involved, be noisy, post about it on social media. Don't let clubs take the piss out of your loyalty. The exploitation of fans' loyalty, which is sort of the angle that they've gone at, the FSA, is very correct, I think, and it sounds harsh, but it's right to the point, and that's where it needs to be. And that's what clubs need. People like Jim Ratcliffe, who comes in and immediately, takes the piss out of fans and puts the prices up.
Yeah. That's what he's doing out here. He's looking in your eye, United fans, and he's taking the piss out of you. While he lives in his fucking tax haven, laughing all the way to the bank, laughing at you.
If we pick on United fans, hopefully it trickles down. So you go, Liam. I'll play some inspirational music behind this.
But I was trying to get on the side of United fans there. I was trying to rile them up and make them see the truth.
He's just a glazer in disguise.
He is. He's Jim Glazer. That's what he is.
Jim Glazer. Right. That's football fixed for another week. As for potential dropouts of the podcast, I think we need to introduce a yellow card system here. Yellow card, red card. If I'm
I think we need to take fingernails off every time in this one.
If I'm getting a dropout for a non-emergency less than 24 hours before, there needs to be consequences. That's a yellow.
I think fingernails.
Vote in the comments below.
Yeah.
Do we start taking the fingernails?
Yellow or red card or fingernail extraction?
What class is an emergency? Does your train being cancelled? Is that an emergency?
That can happen to me, so I'm going to say yes.
Right. Right, well, that's it for another week, Liam.
Brilliant.
What can we do here? How do we wrap this up? How do I usually wrap it up?
Well, we can wrap it up by telling people that they need to like and subscribe, Martin.
Do that.
And if they want to know where they can see previous episodes...
You always say this bit like there's a gun to your head.
because I'm conscious you're always staring at me in case I make a mistake. Because it's like you're ready. Like you almost want me to make a mistake so you can say that I don't listen.
I don't. I'm sharing the load.
It's www.fixingfootballpodcast.com.
Correct.
It's .com, not .co.uk. It's .com because we got
paid the big bucks.
Yeah, we did. We got a super domain.
Please don't forget to join in our competition and get me to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube for Christmas. That would be it. None of you. I give you this for free every week, and all you have to do is subscribe. That's fair.
Yes.
I'm giving away my prized possession, a signed David Beckham Real Madrid shirt, and all you have to do is go via the link below and subscribe and be with a chance of winning it. All that being said, thank you very much for listening. Liam told you where to find us. See you next week if you're there. Goodbye, Liam.
Goodbye.